So we created our own generic list class. And if you don't remember that, public class generic list t, and then we had a public void add, and this was t input. So we created our own generic list. And I mean, we didn't have any functionality or anything, but we still created this. C# actually has a list, a generic list type. So this is going to be very, very similar to a vector in C++. There's a couple of different types of it in C#, but we're going to start talking about just the list for right now. So creating a list, all we have to do is list. Notice that this is in the system collections generic.list, or generic.list, yeah. Represents a strongly typed list of objects that can be accessed by index, provides methods to search, sort, and manipulate lists. So now we can go ahead and say, okay, well, what type of list is this? This is a list of ints. And now we can go ahead and add in the variable name. My nums is equal to new list int, parentheses, do that. And now my nums has a number of methods available to it, number of methods and properties. There's actually quite a long list that you can look on the .NET, well, the Microsoft page, which lists all of the methods and everything that you have. But we can say my nums dot. We have this long list of all sorts of stuff we can do. There's not enough time to go over all of this, but one of the first ones is add. And as you might imagine, adds an object to the end of the list. The object added to the end of the list value can be null for reference types. So we can go ahead and say, all right, let's go ahead and add in 42. And let's go ahead and add in a couple more numbers. Dot add and 24. My nums dot add 15. And I'm lazy, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this line a couple of times. And let's go ahead and do 123 and some random number. And let's go ahead and do it again and just say 91, just for fun. All right, so now how many do we have? Well, it's easy enough for me to count. I have, well, it's not as easy because there's apparently 6 values here and I only have 5 fingers, so I have to use 2 hands to actually count. But there are 6 elements in there. What if you had 100, or what if you had 1,000, or what if you had some unknown number of elements in there? So with an array, there was the .length property. The list has a .count. So you can say console.writeLine my nums.count. And so this gets the number of elements contained in the list, which is quite useful at times. So we have 6 elements in there. So now if we wanted to print off each of the elements in the list, well, we can easily do that. Let's say that we want to, for int I equals 0, I is less than my nums.count, I plus plus. And, well, now we need to print it off, console.writeLine. And now we do my nums. And just like if it's an array, you use square brackets, and this is going to be the index, which always starts at 0. So this will print off every element one line at a time. Go ahead and comment out the count. So now we should see all of these printed out one at a time, or one per line, until it finishes. So this is an easy way to go through the list. You can remove elements, or let's say, you can go through the list, you can print it out. There is an easier way using for each, and in this case we know what type this is, so we can go ahead and say int I in my nums And we can just go ahead and do console.writeLine I. And so now this is just going into my nums, grabbing the first number, printing it out, grabbing the next number, printing it out, and that number is going to be known as I. And so this will print out the exact same information. So these are two different ways of printing out the list. One is using the mynums.count. The other is just iterating through it. And there is a reason why this for each works for lists. It doesn't work for everything, but it does work for this, and it has to do with interfaces, because list does implement the IEnumerable interface, which is also, well, a generic type and a non-generic type. But this is where interfaces, notice that there's this long list of interfaces that is actually implemented by list. So that now you know that anything which implements IEnumerable will work with for each.